Okay, good morning. So it's already the third class about the first chapter of Sefer Shoftim. I hope it's the last one on the first chapter. But I mean, it's a short chapter, but it includes many different things. It generally speaks about what the tribes did after the death of Yoshua. Some of the stories may happen before the death of Yoshua. And we saw how they started to fight separately, each tribe for himself, each tribe on his own inheritance, in his own part in the land of Israel. And the chapter starts very well with Yehuda and Shimon doing everything correctly. We saw the seed, we can say, of the problems in verse 19, when it says, Hashem was with Yehuda, so that they took possession of the hill country. But they were not able to dispossess the inhabitants of the plain, for they had iron chariots. So the question that we made last time, if Hashem is with them to possess the hill country, couldn't Hashem also be with them in order to possess the valley? I mean, the iron chariots are such a big problem that Hashem cannot resolve. What does it mean that he was with them, but they couldn't? So there are two ways to explain. I think the best way to say is that Hashem didn't want to help them in that, because as it's mentioned in the Torah, Hashem said that he's not going to give us the land at once, but gradually. He didn't want the land to stay deserted, deserted. So it was a gradual process. So the first step in the mountain, and after that in the valley. Another explanation, also based on the verses, is that Hashem in purpose left some of the goyim, of the nations in the land, as a probe to Am Israel, to see if they will follow the way of Hashem and not follow the culture of the local nations. Anyway, this is like the first hint that something is going wrong. Until this moment, Yehuda did everything correctly. He took Zat, and he took Zat, Yerushalayim, and we saw Adoni Bezek, and all the wars were okay. But here we say the first hint, something is not going well. And then 2 verses after that, it also says, so the Binyamin did not dispossess the Yevusi, the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So the Yevusim have dwelt with the Binyamin in Jerusalem to this day. So this is the first real problem. Binyamin, even though Yerushalayim was defeated, but Binyamin didn't take the city. So the city left to the Goyim, to the Yevusi. So these are in the first part. And then inside the first part, there were some personal stories. Kalev, Otniel ben Knaz, Adoni Bezek, we saw some personal stories, but generally it's about the tribes. And then we continue now in verse 22, where we arrived last time, right? So the first verse 22 starts with the second or third tribe. After Yehuda and Binyamin, we have Yosef, Bet Yosef. Now, do we have a tribe called Yosef? No. How does it call? Ephraim and Menashe. But here the verse says, the house of Yosef, for their part, advanced against Bethel, and Hashem was with them. So why does it call Bet Yosef? We can understand that they went together. The same as Yehuda and Shimon went together to their part, Ephraim and Menashe went together to their parts. And again, it continues the positive attitude of the first part of the chapter. They were together. But Chachamim here say something interesting. They said, and God was with them. Is it a good thing? We assume that yes, Hashem was with them because they went together, because they were united. Hashem was with them and they could take these places. But Chachamim in the Midrash said about that the otherwise. We will see, Bezrat Hashem, in the end of the book, the story of Pesel Micha. What is Pesel Micha? There was some idol that was a man called Micha uses this idol, and he became like a priest to idolatry inside Am Israel. And he was from the Bnei Yosef, from the sons of Yosef. And they actually, according to the Midrash, this idol came with him from the desert, from Egypt, from the desert, It was with them all these years, meaning they were never really clean and purified from idolatry. And Chachamim said about this midrash, in the same moment that Hashem was with them, they were with the idol. Meaning Hashem is helping us in the same very moment that we are doing the sin, Hashem is with us. And the midrash gives some other examples. The midrash said, in the same day they did the golden calf, the man went down in the morning. Meaning in the same day they got the man from Hashem, they did the golden calf. And this principle is described in the book of Rabbi Moshe Kordever, or Tomer Dvorah. If you remember, they were here a few months ago. Some scholar from Los Angeles, I think, he talked about this book, Tomer Dvorah, that he translated to English, I think, with interpretation. Anyway, in this Tomer Dvorah, it's a Kabbalistic book, and he speaks about the different characters of Hashem, the midot. And it says there, one of the midot of Hashem is that he sustains, support the sinner in the same very moment that he's doing the sin. Let's say you are going to make a sin, and Hashem gives you the power to walk, to breathe, to move your hands, to do what you wanted to do. So this is the great generosity of Hashem, that it's the same moment you act against him, he gives you the power to do that, and he doesn't abandon you. So this principle is seen in this, according to Chachamim, in this verse, that they went to Bethel, they went to take their land. Inside the troops, inside the army of Bnei Yosef, we have the idol of Micha, but still Hashem was with them. So Chachamim, from now on, they taking it to the negative point. And now we have also a specific story about a city. It says, while the house of Yosef were scouting at Bethel. What does it mean, scouting? Meaning like doing a siege around, taking...
Survey, reconnaissance.
What?
Like a reconnaissance?
Reconnaissance?
Yes, looking around to find out.
Okay. Yeah, of course, yes, spine, like spine. Okay, yeah. So, Bnei Yosef arrived to the place called Bethel, and the name of the city before was Luz. So this, again, these two names appears also in the dream of Yaakov in the Torah. It says that he was in Bethel, but Luz was the name of the city in the beginning. It appears after that when he returned to the land of Israel, he went to the same place, to Bethel, and the Torah says Luz was the name of the city. So the Torah repeats several times, and here also in the Tanakh, that this city had two names, Bethel and Luz. What is Luz in English? Do you know?
Right.
No, Luz in Spanish, it's like. In Hebrew, Luz is some kind of nut. Hazelnut? Hazelnut. Yeah, so this is Luz. It's some kind of a nut. That was the name of the city. Now, around this name, there are a lot of legends and some mysterious things that happen. For example, according to Chachamim, we have a bone here called Luz, that after 120 years, we are going to the other place, but our body is going to decompose, right? Apart from this bone. This bone going to be the part that you are going to rebuild in the days of Tchiyat HaMetim, of the revival of the death. So this is some kind of mystical explanation. And I will add some other, they say also that Luz is related to the tchelet of the tzitzit. They were used to paint it also with Luz. So there are some kind of legends around this name, and we're going to see some more, and we should try to understand what is the meaning of that, even though I'm not sure I have the right explanation. There are some very strange stories about that. Anyway, in this case, only the literal meaning of the verses, it says, so they tried to spy the city, they tried to find a way how to come in, and they couldn't. So they were in a siege around the city, and they didn't fight for, I don't know how long was it, the war, and they couldn't enter the city. So their patrols saw someone leaving the town. They say to him, just show us how to get into the town, and we will treat you kindly. So they find a traitor, someone who can because they didn't know how to get inside and outside of the city. They had some secret entrance. Again, I add here the midrashim, the legends, and stories about the city. There was some, and one of the explanation was that the entrance was hidden by a tree of hazelnut. That's the name, it's called like that. Other explanation, it's like the hazelnut is closed from all the sides. In order to eat the hazelnut, you have to break it. There's no way you can enter it, right? So it says the city was totally closed. There was not any entrance that they could enter apart from this secret entrance, and they didn't know how to find it. They didn't have any solution until they found this traitor, and they told him, show us where should we get inside, and he showed them. The next verse says, so he showed them how to get into the town. They put the town to the sword, but they let the man and all his relatives go free. The man went to the Hittite country, other place. He founded a city and named it Luz, the same city that he came from. And that has been its name to this day. What is to this day? Usually we explain to the day that the book was written. Who wrote the book of Yoshua? Apparently, Yoshua wrote part of it, and maybe Shmuel concluded it. But anyway, we are talking that the literal meaning is that it's still the name, the city Luz still exists somewhere until the day of written the city or the book. But again, now I add all the legendary additions of Chachamim. So Chachamim said that this city was never moved from its place, even though Sancheriv, the king of Ashur, Syria, came and he mixed all the nations. And after that, Nebuchadnezzar came and he mixed all the nations. Both of them couldn't touch the city of Luz. And not only that, so until this day, meaning forever, the eternity. The eternity comes from the city of Luz. And like we said before about the legend about the bond, meaning the eternity, when we come back to life forever, it's going to start from the Luz bone. So we see that the eternity character is related to Luz. More than that, Chachamim, again, in the Midrash, said, I don't think, again, that we should understand everything literally, but that's what they say, that people in this city never die. When they want to die, when it was enough for them, they fought with the children, they have grandchildren, and they are already tired from that, they just move to other city and then they die. But inside the city of Luz, nobody dies. And also the sons of Yosef couldn't find a way to enter the city. So what is the meaning of all of that? I'm not sure, like I said before. It looks like the character of eternity and the character of the truth are related to each other, meaning the truth is something that stays forever. It cannot change according to the circumstances, to the change of culture, to the change of years. There are some kind, and it's also became a term in Hebrew. When you say the luz of the thing, it's like the eternal essence of the thing, the seed of everything. So the truth, the seed of the truth that is inside the world, it's something that never changes. You can say we should now behave in this way because in modern culture this is the right way to behave, and we should wear this kind of clothes because this is the way we clothes, and this is the kind of culture that we can consume, etc. So this is something that changed with the time, but there is the luz, the base, the essence of the truth. It's something eternal, that it's never changed and it never can be replaced by other truth. So this is a relation between the truth and the eternity, and it's related in some way to Yosef. We read the stories of Yosef in this parashot, who was loyal to his essence. He never changed. It says the same Yosef that came to Egypt is the Yosef that was a king. He is related to the truth character of being straight and truthfully and always according to his values and his principles. He never changed them. So it's related to the sons of Yosef. They were struggling to find the way to the city, but in the end, by traitor, they could find the way to get inside the city. Another explanation to the idea of the luz is related to what we always speak here in this chapter, and this is the luz, the essence of the problem of this generation. It's the separation between the people. So we can see, for example, this city, we said it was like a luz, closed from all sides and unite in the inside. nobody in the inside was separated or tried to find way out. They will stay together until there was one person. The one person that decided to separate himself from the collective, he was the one who caused their falling. So, okay, so again, what we can see that the union of the city is what can hold it, and when the union is broken, that is the reason for the failure. And this is what Am Israel should have learned from this place, and he didn't. They still, we can see, Yosef still were together, the two tribes, but in the very next verse, we already see that it's separated. It says in next verse 27, Menashe did not dispossess the inhabitants of Bet Shean and its dependencies, or of Ta'anach and its dependencies, or the inhabitants of Dor and its dependencies, or the inhabitants of Ibleam and its dependencies, or inhabitants of Megiddo and its dependencies. The Canaanite persisted in dwelling in this region. So this is the first big failure. We saw Benjamin only couldn't take all of Jerusalem, but here we have already a list, and not only the cities, also the surrounding of the city, or around the city, the places around the city. And what is the reason? Because now we are reading only about Menashe. Where is the fine? Apparently, after Bethel, after Luz and Bethel, they were separated. They didn't continue together. And once they are separated, they didn't have enough power to take all their lands. So again, even though Hashem was with them in the beginning and they started in the right way, it's continuing the wrong way. And now we have all the list of these places that they couldn't take. So this is maybe the other lesson of the city of Luz. When you are united, you can win. When you are not united, you're going to lose. Okay, so this is about the story of the city. And now, until the end of the chapter, we are going to see mainly the failures. Until now, we saw Yehuda took that, Shimon took that, Bnei Yosef took that. And from now on, we are going to see what they didn't take. And we're going to see, a word that I learned for this class, deterioration. Deterioration of the process of taking the land of Israel. Okay, so the first level was taking all the cities. The second level, we couldn't take Ta'anach and Bet Shean and Megiddo, all that in the north, in the close north, not in the far north, between the Shomron and the Galil. There is Emek Israel, and these places are over there. More or less, where is Afula today, if you know the land of Israel. And so now they couldn't take these places, and the Canaanite persisted in dwelling in that, but still, the next verse says, and when Israel gained the upper end, they subjected the Canaanite to forced labor, but they did not dispossess them. Okay, so we can see that even though they couldn't finish them, they were in control. They made them pay taxes. Usually tax in this time wasn't money. Usually tax was work. They used to take people to work for the government, let's say, for the public works. So they couldn't win them, but they were in control of them. And that's what it says also, nor did Ephraim disposes the Canaanim, who inhabited Gezer, so the Canaanite dwelt in the midst in Gezer. So again, we can see here another level down. In about Menashe, it says the Canaanite persisted. Vayoel come from the word El. El, God, is related to the word power. El is also mean power. Ail vakoach, right? Ayal also means power. So Vayoel HaKnaani, meaning he was powerful enough to stay. Meaning Menashe tried, but he couldn't. After that, he could control it, but he couldn't take it. Ephraim, he doesn't say that he even tried. He just say he didn't disposes. He didn't say he tried and couldn't. So we can see that in the beginning there were success. After that, they were try and not the failure, and then they didn't even try. That's what it says. Nor did Ephraim disposes the Canaanites who inhabited Gezer, so that Canaanite dwelt in their midst at Gezer. Gezer is interesting place. It has interesting history. We saw, for example, Jerusalem wasn't taken in this time. It waited until the days of David HaMelech. And other places were taken in the days of Shaul or David, etc. Gezer was the last city that wasn't taken by the land of Israel, by the Am Israel, by the Israeli nation, until the days of Shlomo, and it wasn't neither by the hands of Shlomo. It says, if you remember the story of Shlomo, Shlomo was married with, remember who? Well, you don't have to remember the list of all the 1,000 women. I'm talking about the first one it's mentioned, the daughter of Paro. Shlomo got married with the daughter of Paro. So the father, the loving father, wanted to give a gift to Shlomo. So he went to a war. He took Gezer. He burned the city, and then he finished the Knaanim. This is a mention of the Knaanim. The same Knaanim stayed in the city until the days of Shlomo HaMelech, and then he handed over to his daughter and to the King Shlomo. So the city of Gezer stayed non-Jew, until the days of Shlomo, 400 years later. Right? So this is about Gezer. And then we continue. Zvulun did not dispose the inhabitants of Kitron or the inhabitants of Naalol. As you can see, again, he said what he didn't do. He doesn't say what he did. So the Canaanites dwelt in the midst, but they were subjected to forced labor, to mass. It's in Hebrew, mass tax. So still in the same level, they didn't try to take it, and the Canaanites stayed inside them, but still having to pay taxes, forced labor taxes. And then it continues, and it says, Asher did not dispose the inhabitants of Akko, or the inhabitants of Sidon, Achlav, Achziv, Chelba, Afik, and Rehov. You know these places? Sidon is already Lebanon today. Sidon is far, far north. And Achziv, have you been in Achziv? It's a famous beach in Israel, in the north also. So we are talking about the northwest, near the sea. All this place belongs to Asher. He says he didn't take these places. And now look for another deterioration. It says, so the Asherites dwelt in the midst of the Canaanite. Until now it was the Canaanite dwelt in the midst of Israel. Here the Asher dwelt in the midst of the Canaanite, the inhabitants of the land, for they did not dispose of them. So Asher is another level down. And then the next verse, the same. Naphtali did not dispose of the inhabitants of Bet Shemesh or the inhabitants of Bet Anat, but they settled in the midst of the Canaanite inhabitants of the land, and the inhabitants of Bet Shemesh and Bet Anat had to perform forced labor for them. So here it's not very clear. To whom? It says that they sat in the midst of the Canaanite, but the inhabitants of Bet Shemesh and Bet Anat paid taxes. To whom? So it's not very clear here. It can be understood that not only the Naphtali left Canaanim, not only they lived inside the Canaanim, they also had to pay to them. So it's another level down. But here it's double meaning. You can understand that it's the opposite. That the Canaanim paid attribute, tax or whatever, paid taxes to Naphtali. And then another level, the son of Dan. The rest of the tribes, at least, could arrive to their zone and take part of it. Dan couldn't even get closer to this place. It says the Amorit pressed the Danite into the hill country. They would not let them come down to the plain. So the sons of Dan couldn't even arrive to their inheritance. They stayed in the mountain, meaning in the place of other tribe. Again, we are going to see in the end of the book that the tribe of Dan will look for a new place in the far north, right, near Lebanon. But they couldn't take their place. Where is the place of Dan? Do you remember? We talked about that. Dan basically is Tel Aviv. Today we call all the cities in the center of Eretz Israel, we call it Gush Dan, the group of cities of the tribe of Dan. So that was supposed to be his place until it goes until the south, until Gaza, more or less. We saw that Gaza belongs to Yehuda, but more or less a zone of the beach, right? How do you say, near the sea, all the place near the sea, coast. All the coast from Tel Aviv to Gaza, more or less, should have been in the hands of Dan, but they couldn't even arrive to this place. But look, something interesting. In the next verse it says, so the Amori also persisted in dwelling in Ar Cheres, in Ayalon, and in Sha'alabim, places that's supposed to be to Dan, but the hand of the house of Yosef bore heavily on them, and they had to perform forced labor. So we saw already that Yosef were strong, and they could take most. So here we can see that the house of Yosef also took the parts of the land of Dan. What they should have done? Help the brother and give him his part. What they really did, left the goyim there because they wanted their taxes. So we can see again the deterioration. In the beginning, they try and couldn't take. After that, they tried, they couldn't. After that, they didn't even try. After that, that not only they even try, they could, but they preferred their own interest than the general mitzvah of taking the land of Israel and giving it between Am Israel. So the verse ends, the territory of the Amorim extended from the ascents of Akrabim, from Sela onward. Okay, so we can see this chapter ends with a total failure. Right? In the end of the chapter, we are in the worst scenario when we not only we don't care about taking the land of Israel, we prefer other interests, and we leave the Knaanim to live there. And then it is the source of all the problems that we are going to see during the book of the Shoftim. Okay, so we finish the chapter. Actually, the next 5 verses belongs to the first chapter. You know that the division of the chapters that we have in the Bible is not a Jew division. It's a Christian division. It's very useful. We use it usually. But some of the places when the chapter change, we have other traditions. So here, the Jew division is continue until verse 5 of the next, because it's related directly to that. It speaks about an angel that was sent to them and was criticizing them for already breaking the covenant with Hashem. But I think we will see that without Hashem next time. Any questions or commentaries? No? Okay, yeah.
Is there a reason given why they had to drive out inhabitants?
Why they did? Yes, so the Torah says that if you leave the inhabitants of the land inside the land, you're going to be influenced by them, you're going to get married with them, and then to follow the culture and to become idolatrous, how do you say? Idolatrous like them. And that's what's actually happened. We can see that in the future, that's what's actually happened. It looks like injustice, right? To take the land of the local inhabitants, but it's something that we talked about in the beginning, and it was justified for many reasons. Anyway, the divine order was very clear. You cannot leave the inhabitants in the land of Israel for the long term. It doesn't mean that today we are not allowed to leave non-Jews in the land of Israel. There is certain conditions that if they are fulfilled, a non-Jew can live in the land of Israel. It's called ger toshav. We have 2 terms of ger conversion. There is ger toshav and ger tzedek. Ger tzedek converted is someone that wasn't Jew that became Jew. This is ger tzedek. Ger toshav is someone that is non-Jew, stayed non-Jew, but is getting permission to live in the land of Israel among the Jews. So there are several conditions, but it is allowed. But these specific nations of the Knaanim couldn't stay in the land of Israel. The culture of the Knaanim was so corrupted, was so negative, that we got a very clear order not to leave the Knaanim, these nations, in the land of Israel. These specific nations. Yeah. Okay.
We have